project explanation and all those things. See, basically, when you talk about the project and all, it all depends upon what project you're actually choosing for you and then how you're going about it. So basically, when you go to the interviews, people will look for you on the following skills. I want you to prepare on these skills. In the last class also I mentioned. One is that they'll drill you through on the SQL part completely, and they will also test the basic bit of PL SQL if they are actually hiring for an Oracle database projects. And they will test you on the Unix and what are the basic commands, and they'll also test you on the data warehousing basics, basically how to go about it. And they'll also talk about the data modeling, like the dimension modeling, slowly changing dimensions and all those. And completely on the Informatica Power Center part so far, whatever we have discussed, including the all the activities which includes that. So they're going to test you on this as well. So these are the skills that you need to prepare yourself when you start preparing for the interviews and everything. So basically, when it comes to the first question, is that they'll ask you about the what are the current project roles and responsibilities. So basically, that they will ask you. So it all depends upon what project that you have kept and how you are going to explain about it. So I'll explain you on one sample project. Probably you have to convert your, I mean, you have to explain in the same way by finding out all the details what it is there. So basically, so when you're talking about the project roles and responsibilities, first talk about who is the customer is and what you have implemented and what is your roles and responsibilities when you talk about that. So when you say, when you talk about the project, first is a project description. So what is a project is all about? When you start with a project description, what is a project? And explain about the technology that is being involved in the project. And when you say that, what are the technology, like which Informatica version is being used, which database is being used, and Informatica version, and all these things, what reporting tool is being used, what BI tool is being, I mean to say that what BI tool is being used, all those things you have to explain. And then you need to talk about the roles and responsibilities. So when you're talking about the project, basically what you should give is, let's say, you should start saying that, let's say I'm currently working for the implementation of the data warehouse for a particular customer, or I'm currently working for a customer for building the data mart and everything. So basically I'll talk about the one thing. Let's say when you talk about this, first you need to talk about how you're actually receiving a data. What is your transactional system, what data you're receiving, and how you're receiving that data, and all those you're finding out. So when you talk about this one, basically, let's say I have an OLTP system. You can say that our OLTP system is there in the Oracle database. So this is the retail data what we have. So the customer is an online customer where they actually book the products and everything. Let's say you are building a warehouse for Amazon database. So in the Amazon business is basically is all about selling the products through the Amazon.com, Amazon.in, and they have a data which transactional system which is running on Oracle. And let's say that they're also receiving, you're also receiving the data in the form of flat files and the XML files and all those. So you can say that this is our source systems. Like we have a data which comes from the Oracle SQL Server, flat files and XML, and we integrate that data into the staging area first. Let's say your project architecture talks about integrating the data into the staging area part. We actually pull the incremental data from this transactional system, and then we will put the data into the staging area. uh, Staging area what we have, and we put the data into the staging tables. You can always say that some kind of a staging table names also you should remember that. Let's say something like a stage underscore invoice and stage underscore line item, and let's say that stage underscore product, something like this. You can explain the this thing, and you can say that from the staging area we are actually loading the data completely into the one enterprise data warehouse wherein we are moving. So in order to move the data from OLTP to the staging area, we are using an ETL tool, and from staging area to a warehouse, we are using an ETL tool. So you can say that enterprise data warehouse or a data mart is being built in this project. So in the enterprise data warehouse, we have a various star schemas and all those star schema table names and everything you should remember, like what kind of dimensions they will ask sometimes, like what dimensions you have, something like a dim product, dim this one, fact sales, call sum, call metric sum, this kind of a details you can mention all the details, and each and every table what kind of data that it actually holds and everything. So, and you say that this is a overall that we integrate the data, and once we load the data, this is actually used by our reporting team. Uh, Basically, this is by our reporting team. When you say that this is about your BI tools, what we there. So BI tool, you can explain them. Let's say in your project, if your OBIE is being used, you can explain them saying that OBIE is being used as my project, or BO is being used. And if they say that, do you have experience? If you're comfortable, you can say that, okay, I know the little bit basics about this and all, but I'm not involved completely. So this is how you have to explain the architecture of the project and how it is used by the customer. That is main important. Okay, so what is the end result of your product? Basically, you are building a data mart or you're building a data warehouse, how it is being used by the customer. So basically, this project they have built to analyze the revenues across the region, and they wanted to understand the growth of revenue. So this kind of 10 to 15 analysis points you should know. Growth of the revenue, and you should also talk about the top selling products, bottom selling products, least revenue generating products. So this kind of analysis which they want to do on the retail side. So this analysis is actually done by the OBIE or a business objects. So when you explain about the project, whatever the project that you are keeping, you need to understand what is it used for and what is the end result of that product. Basically, you can't say that I'm involved in the integration, but what is the use of it? So you should understand these kind of business questions which can be answered by your to reduce the to understand the return ratio of the products. I mean, how many customers are actually return the products, and if I want to understand what is the revenue of Apple products, so like this kind of a thing. So you need to know what is the revenue of Apple products which you have. So all these things you should know. Basically, some 10 reports or the 10 analysis points you should explain that this is what is used for the project. And when you talk about the roles and responsibilities, this is very important. This is about the project description. When you talk about the roles and responsibilities, so you can say that as an Informatica architect or as an Informatica developer, I have involved in the end-to-end implementation of the ETL project, end to end. So when you say end-to-end implementation, it's basically the design, and it's basically the design of the project, understanding the requirements. So one is that understanding the requirements and design. Let's say the when you say design, it's a LLD, HLD, and all those. And I also involved in the design and then the unit testing. And if you are comfortable with the migration, you can also say that migration of the code and all these things which we have done. And when you talk about the create roles and responsibilities, if you go in granular details, like preparing the design documents. When you say design documents, it's like I have prepared LLD as well as HLD, all these things. Involved in designing the data model. So you can say that like you're involved in designing the data model, like a star schema and the snowflake schema, what it is there, star schema or a snowflake schema, which it is there. And you also talk about the star schema and the snowflake schema, what it is there. And you can also say that I've involved in preparing the database scripts, basically the whatever the database scripts like DDL statements, DML statements, and everything, and involved in preparing the STM, like source to target column mapping sheet, and created a mapping with a created mapping sessions, workflows whenever it is required, and involved in scheduling of the workflows, and which scheduling tool that you are used in your project, that also you can explain, like how the workflows are scheduled, how that will run and everything. And you can say to add on to this, I'm comfortable with all these transformations like expression, aggregator, router, and all these things, which you can aggregator, router, and all these things, which you can explain whatever the transformations that you're comfortable with. So this is how you have to explain the roles and responsibilities. So depending upon, if you say that if you're going in as an architect, you can say that end-to-end implementation mainly focus on the data model, mainly focus on the low-level design, high-level design document, not about the simple things like preparing STM and all. So, and what kind of business use cases that you have implemented, or people will ask you what are the and once you explain the roles and responsibilities, the must question that you actually get is performance tuning. So we talked about this in the during the our course. I explained you what are the steps that you have to explain, and performance tuning is something that which you have to really good at to answer the questions. And they'll ask you about the different types of challenges that you actually faced during the project implementation and all those things. So when you talk about the challenges, uh, basically you can say that okay, there was something like requirements were not clear and we had to rework it. That was one challenge that we faced. And data, and one thing like in the agile methodology we had to rework for most of the requirements, that you can say that as a challenge. Agile methodology, uh, we had to rework because the requirements were not clear. Rework, since the requirements are not clear, that is one thing that it just as a not clear, that you can say that. And also you can say that if you are good in performance tuning, challenge is about, there was a scenario wherein we had to design the high volume data load, which was taking a long amount of time. So through your performance tuning steps, we actually created a partition and helped that workflow to run in a very less time, and all those that you can explain. And these kind of a challenges you need to explain, like if they ask you more about it. And when you talk about the, let's say, the complex mapping, so the people ask you again and again to understand like what is a complex mapping, what is a complex scenario that you have implemented, and all those things. So to understand this, I want you guys to concentrate on this, to basically the understand the complex scenario what you're going to explain. See, it depends on, I mean, it actually differs from one project to the other project. But if I have to explain even the complex mapping for you also, you need to be um, very good in understanding what I'm going to talk about. So let's say I'll give you the simple approach only, but you have to understand this what complex mapping that I'm going to explain now. So basically you can say that we had 21 databases. I mean, you can call it as a 21 schemas which were there. And each schema, basically the tables were there. It's like prefix is common. I mean, like schema name underscore table name. Let's say A is a schema name. We have a table name called as a underscore T1, B underscore T1. This is a prefix. Then nothing but the region code. Assume that this is how I have a table which are present in the this 21 staging tables. I mean, 21 tables, 21 OLTP tables are present. So if you say that what was the reason that the data is actually spread across the different you know different 21 database, you can say that, see, it is one of the scenario that the data is distributed across the 21 different applications which are maintained for each individual region. You can say that. Okay, so there are 21 regions within the US for this project, and for each region they have a separate table to capture the transactional data. Now, our challenge was to integrate the data from all these 21 tables, whatever we have, into a common staging table. Into a common staging table. That was a challenge which we had. So when you say that, let's say stage underscore T1 is a table which we had to integrate, I have to read the data from these 21 tables, right? and I have to read the data from these 21 tables and integrate this into a single staging table. Okay. See, the one way is that if you create 21 mappings and stg underscore t1 as a target, that is a very simple solution. I can create 21 mappings and then do it. But here in this scenario, you can tell that I have not created a 21 mappings. Rather, we actually created a one mapping. We actually created one mapping and pass the table name, pass the table name. You can write it as pass the table name as a parameter for it. So you can define something like this: pass the table name as a parameter in the source qualifier override. In the source qualifier override, which it is there, and you do it. So when you have defined that as a source parameter, and for 21 different regions, since you have to pass the 21 different tables, you can say that we have created 21 sessions. We have created 21 sessions. All these 21 sessions invokes the same mapping, which it is there. So when you talk about your workflow, you'll actually have a one workflow which will contain 21 sessions. All 21 sessions are invoking the same mapping about it. So invoking the same mapping. So this way we have loaded the data, and so some people will come back and then say that what is complex in it. You are just defined that. So you can say that when we have actually defined a mapping, it was that we created some 10 maplets for validating the data and everything, for address validation and all those things. And we also used quite number of lookups, quite a bit of lookups, which it is there. And this is what we have created. So quite a bit of lookup. So all the transformation logical validations which made it as a complex. And with this we had some performance issues as well, and with the implementation of partitions and everything, we overcome the performance of that. So this is something that which you can explain. Some people will accept saying that okay, this is there is a little bit of complexity in it. Some people will quite come back and say that what is there in complex, so they might re-question you back. So probably you have to justify yourself by giving a proper answer, and all those things will be there. So this is one simple scenario which I'm explaining you. Definitely within the training environment, if I have to explain the very complex mapping which will actually give you, probably you have to understand that you might need some 5 or 6 hours to understand that itself if I have to explain. So such kind of a very complex mapping which I'm not telling you. So this is something that which you can try and explain and do that. Okay, let's say this is one complex mapping which you have. So another mapping is that you can still say that some challenging thing that you actually implemented. You can also say that we have actually implemented a reusable framework for generating a surrogate primary key. Reusable framework for generating a surrogate primary key. That also you can say that. So since most of the project doesn't use that, generating a surrogate primary key, this is one challenging thing that you can also talk about. Let's say this is another one, and you can also say that adding the number of records in the footer, number of records in the footer of the file. I have done it, so that if you remember, we have done it by using a post session success command and using it. That also you can say that as some little bit of a complex activity if you're actually going in as a 3-year-old 4-year-old developer. So these are all the little bit of complex activities which you can explain on that front to give you the more complex terminology and all those things. So I've got a question here. What will be the reasonable data size? I mean, what is your data warehouse size? If they ask this kind of a question, it depends upon the customer project that you're actually keeping. If you're actually working for a bigger client like a Citibank and something like Bank of America and all, you can quite blindly say that our data warehouse size is more than 1 TB. Suppose if you're working for a smaller clients, let's say like a Cox Communication, maybe some simple clients and all, you can say that our data warehouse size is ranges from 500 GB to 600 or 700 GB, something like that. So that is something that which you can say that on the data warehousing front as well. So this is overall project responsibilities that what you can explain and then do it. See, it depends. Only the thing that you have to change is that what is a project description that you are keeping and what is going to be your end use of the product. This information, I want you to actually read through your resume and prepare some 10 bullet points for explaining all these. So if you are not explaining this properly, they can easily catch hold of you that you're not a real time person. So basically, this is very, very important. In order to get this information, basically product description and all, so whatever the project that you're keeping, you need to get the technical design documents. If required, you need to also get the data model of that project. And also, if possible, you can also talk about the workflows which are created, what time it is scheduled, and all those things. So if you have this information, you can confidently answer when they ask you like architecture of the project and data model, what is being defined, what are the dimension tables and fact tables. See, basically I cannot give you one simple project which it contains all the things. Anyhow, we are going to send you one project which is a little bit of a confidential thing which we cannot actually show you and record that, which we will send you, that contains a data model, workflows, and the technical design document. If you're comfortable, you can keep the same project and then explain about that. So that is overall about the project roles and responsibilities that you have to explain. So that will be sent by Gangadhar to you, and you can actually work. I mean, you can understand that if you'd like to keep the same project, you can also keep that as part of your resume. So I have actually so I'll answer one by one if you have any questions. Yes, go ahead,
Hi
please.
Karthik, this is Varsha.
Yes, go ahead.
I mean, like, it's a very basic question. In suppose in resume we have to mention some technical skills like your programming language and special software. So if we are mentioning like Harvest and Infoman CS7, how do we need to prepare about these technical
See, basically,
terms?
you will
Like,
be. Yeah, what is the terminology that you said?
like Infoman CS7, Harvest.
Okay, what are these tools? Harvest. What is it used for?
Um, Yeah, it's like it's mentioned along with Power Center, Oracle, Power Exchange, and then Putty, WinSCP. I'm very well aware of these tools like Putty, WinSCP, Center, and Oracle. What about Harvest and Power Exchange?
Okay, so it's
I mean,
being
like,
used as part of a power exchange.
yes,
I'm not very sure about it. And is that the spelling is correct?
yeah, it's HARVEST, Harvest.
Okay, let me search.
CS7 is an automation tool. I mean, like about.
CS7.
So, do we really need to mention all these terms, or
No, not
we
required. You
have to
can just
mention
take
only
out,
two?
but
Okay.
not required. You can just talk about WinSCP and all those things. But I haven't come across these
Okay.
tools. Anyway, you can send me the mail. I'll look into that. What is it?
Okay, okay, fine.
Okay.
And
How
what
long?
about and what about
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Power Exchange? What do we need to?
Yeah, Power Exchange is actually used for real-time integration. Suppose if you want to integrate directly the data from mainframes or SAP BW, all these connectors it is actually used. So if you are keeping a project which is of SAP BW where it is reading the data from SAP ERP and all, then you need to know the Power Exchange. Otherwise, you
Okay,
can say that I don't have experience into the Power Exchange.
okay, fine.
How long the server access will be available from today? It will be from another 7 days from today, and mostly by next Saturday, Sunday, we'll take out the access. If we will put 7 years, how many projects we should put? That all depends upon. In the US, it will be of most of the short assignments will be there. You can probably keep maybe around 5 or 6 projects. That is enough to do that. Or if you want to put some experience onto the other technologies as well, you can also put that technology and Informatica around for 4 or 5 years. You can actually keep it. Right. Any other questions? Okay. Can we have a paid access after the next week? Yes, you can get in touch with Gangadhar and Ishwar for that. You can drop in at admin@techclasses.com, or you can also drop in at info@techclasses.com. All these things. You can get in touch and they will help you out on that.
Karthik,
Yes.
are you able to hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. You said by next week it will be de-linked, the server access. Is there any other way that you said through VM we could do? How do we go about it?
Whatever you actually practiced so far over 45 to 60 days, you can also the same things you can practice except the Unix. It's already being set up. Yeah. So if you need a VM access and all those, I mean VM setup and all those things, please get in touch with Gangadhar. He'll share you the files, and that is a easy process to set up. You can try and do that, or if you are finding difficulty, you can always get in touch with him. He'll help you out. Only the Unix will be not there. Everything else will be a part of the same labs you can practice again on the VM as well.
Okay, in that case, how about the parameter file? It's an Unix system, right?
You can always copy that Unix parameter files onto the VM, or you can define the new parameter file to run anything. Or let's say if you want to take a backup of whatever the work that you have done in your folder, you can always take that and then even import that into your VM as well. So I'll show you now how to take an export. Basically, when you talk about the shell scripts and the parameter files, as I said, you need to copy them through the WinSCP and all. So when we talked about the migration, I did tell you, right, parameter file migration will be done separately and all those. So what you need to do is you can go to your folder, select all of them, and then click on export. It will create an XML file. So whatever the XML file that you are actually creating, and that XML file, you can copy this to your VM, and you can import that easily. So 9 p.m. EST, if I say. So if you want whatever the programs that I have developed, if you want this objects, whatever I have developed, if you want this also, Gangadhar will attach this and send you as a part of a final mail communication. So that also can be done. So anything you need on that front also, that's fine. So you can just export it, copy that file into your VM, create one folder, and you can import it. Whatever the work that you have done, it will be there, provided that you are copying the parameter files and all those. You have to modify that because the path will be different from Windows to the Unix. You have to modify wherever the parameter files are being used. All right.
Okay. Thank you, Karthik. And should there be any questions, probably I could send you on WhatsApp or I'll email you. Okay?
Yeah, you can always do that. And if possible, like we want your feedback. I'm not sure how many of you have replied the feedback. I'm not sure whether Gangadhar has actually sent a mail for it. So I want you to actually need one more favor from you, is that you can just go into Google and then search for a tech classes. So basically you can add a review over here in the Google itself. So if you see that there are a Google reviews which are being defined for the tech classes, and once if you are whatever the feedback that you have, you can always write a review over here, like what is your experience about it, and you can just log in and then review us here in this, as well as you can also send in a mail for us, which will be really helpful for us to improve our training methodology and everything in the subsequent classes as well. So with your review and the feedback, somebody might get benefited because of your valuable feedback. So we are looking forward for your feedback. We will send out a communication. I want you to, everybody of you to respond back with your feedback, what you have experienced about the training and everything. Okay. So sure. I've also given you my a number as well. You can always WhatsApp me there. So most of the time I may not pick your calls because I'll be all the time in the class and I can't answer your calls, but always I can respond to you on the WhatsApp, whatever it is there. Okay. All right. So any other questions anybody has before we actually wind up? Okay. So now I have a couple of questions here. Yeah. If you're already done, you can go ahead. And one is that, do you have any support service after getting the job and everything? So basically, we will also help you out. In case if you're actually looking for a job support and all those things, we'll dedicatedly allocate somebody to help you out. Some a trainer or a consultant from India, they'll help you out. But for that, there will be a separate charges which you might have to pay to that guy, and that help will do it. So what if the vendor asks for a professional reference based on your project and you're comfortable, whatever, that you probably can give the references who is actually comfortable for you. If you need any other references and all, I can forward it to you. You can keep their names and then give their details about it. So if you'd like to just give the reference, okay, we'll send you that as well. Yeah. Professional references. Okay. Whatever, yeah, that also we will see that how it is going to work out, and then we'll send that as well. All right. See, I hope all of you might already aware that Tech Classes also provides the other trainings, like which you want anything, you can always visit us at the techclasses.com, and we guarantee the quality for you at any training. I mean, any training that you actually come and take us. So when you talk about the trainings that we are going to provide as part of this, is like we are mainly onto the BI front, and we give you the trainings on the Informatica data quality and as well as an Informatica MDM, and we also more into the Hadoop development. It's basically the Cloudera on all those things, and we are also into the OBIEE. We have very strong consultants who are working with us on the Tableau side, and we are also into the testing side as well on the ETL testing and SQL, PLSQL, whatnot. So many courses are there. You're always welcome to visit our website and then review us and then leave us a feedback, whatever you want. It's always, you can reach us on the techclasses.com. So this is a website for us, so you can always come here and then visit us. Okay, so that's the overall from me. Right.
Real quick question for you.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Yeah, you said earlier before we started this, do you have any thing for the developer certification course of Informatica? Any sort of a question bank?
Yeah,
or,
for that there are dumps actually, and which we have collected for the people to help out and to understand the sample questionnaire and everything. So you can drop a mail to Gangadhar. He'll get bit. I mean, he'll send you the sample questions. What is there on the Informatica developer certification?
Okay, perfect. I'll send a mail to Gangadhar. No worries.
Yeah. So for a different tables, there will be a different for a different domains there will be different tables. Yes, that is what, like when you're actually keeping a project, you need to know that what are the data model and everything for that project to keep it. All right. So please make sure that you get that details and keep that project, because project gives you a complete, once you are confidently explain the project, then everything else will go smoothly on the interview process. All right. So that's it I have. I mean, I think I can sign off.